Hi, everybody. We're halfway through my first season. So now I just want to take a look back at my top final five segments. Take a look at this and enjoy.
5,
What do you think is important for your kids to know about you as a man and as their dad?
Huh. It's I would say something simple, that I'm a good guy. I would hope my kids know that. Um, I believe in the Lord. I'm a God fearing man, and that I got their back. And I just told my daughter the other day, know that I got your back.
Okay. Number two, when your kids were children, was it easier being their dad or a state trooper?
It was way easy being a state trooper. There's rules and guidelines to being a state trooper.
Mhm.
There's no rules to being a dad. There's no book. There's no official orders. There's no guidance. There's no you refer to page 17 when you need to arrest somebody. When your daughter's doing something she ain't supposed to do, or she told you where she's going to be at, how do you uh, punish her or support her? Or she tells she's going back to school. She's not going to Michigan. She's going to Michigan State because she likes to party. Well, how do you do that? That's no book. So it's way easier being a state trooper.
Okay. Number three, did you try to apply the lessons you learned from raising your daughter on your son? And what did you find out? Because
That it don't work. That they're two different kids totally. That it just doesn't work. You could have 5 kids and you have to be flexible in the way that you raise them, because not everybody's the same. So they each require their own separate amount of love. My daughter, we laugh about it. She likes to chit chat. So she'll call me and talk about nothing, which drives me crazy. And she just wants the chit chat. And she's not going to have if she can't chit chat with her dad. My son will call me once, and that's how I am. He'd be like, "What up? You see the Lions game? Yep. They suck. Yep. Talk to you later. Bye. Love you." That is our conversation. And then I hear from him again in a week, and I call him back. "You see Lions won? Yep. You watching the next week? Yep. Love you. Talking to you later."
Okay. Number four, you're a grandfather now. How does being a granddad compare to being a dad?
It is the best thing in the world. And I got to be careful when I say that kind of stuff. But it is cool as heck because I get to spoil the crap out of them, and I'm not responsible for raising them. Me and my daughter get into all the time. Well, that's not right. You didn't do us like that. That ain't my job to raise them. My job is to do what I want to do. I'm grown now. So I can spoil them all the time. And my babies get ice cream every single time I see them. And that's all they care about. And if it's too much, not enough, I got banned from the house. I'm not allowed over there after 7 o'clock.
What do you mean you got banned from the house?
I'm not allowed to go to her house at 7 o'clock with a pocket full of candy and give them to them.
Oh, because they're going to be up all night bouncing off the walls.
I didn't know that.
You don't care.
And don't care.
All right. So, final question, number 5. What's your legacy?
Ooh. That's deep. I don't know. I hope it's just being a good guy. I hope it's just being a good guy, somebody that you could count on, somebody that loved hard, was fair, that tried, that made a difference, and that loved his wife, family, kids. And if you're in my circle, you're in my circle. And that's, a ride or die. I'll do whatever I can for you.
4,
What advice will you give to a parent of a child with cerebral palsy when it comes to things that they should not do? Or
That's a good question. My wife was very involved in the ARC of Oakland County. As a matter of fact, somebody just told me there's a video that she did probably 20 years ago that resurfaces every now and then. And somebody just told me they saw it on the air the other day. So we've had a lot of contact. But one thing we started from day one is we didn't treat them any different from my other kids. If we didn't tolerate bad behavior from him. Not that he had a lot of bad behavior, but we didn't when he was very little, we didn't excuse it because he because he had special needs and stuff. And I think some people will tend to not to discipline or do stuff because they feel bad for the child as it is. And then you have a child with special needs that is undisciplined. And we treated him like we did the other kids. I mean, if he was doing something, he wasn't listening, we took him out of the room or had a timeout or whatever and said it's not going to be tolerated. And I think that's done a lot to that. He doesn't have the issues, that some, adults without special needs do. So
Yes.
yeah,
Okay,
we
number
we didn't give him any slack because he had special needs or anything. We
Right.
we expected behavior out of him, and he's done it. He's followed through really good.
Good. All right. Second question. What was the biggest hurdle in your son's life so far? What do you think it was so far?
Probably the biggest hurdle was getting beyond the seizures. If you've known anybody that's had seizures or somebody that has a child that has seizures, it's very, very, very frustrating because we learned throughout this whole process that medical community has come so far so quickly, but when it comes to the brain, there's still it's like unknown territory. And when he started having very minor little twitching seizures, and then they progressed into like 5 or 6 second twitching seizures. Then they started into grand malls, and at that point, we ended up taking him down to the hospital in Cleveland Clinic, and they were supposed to have a pretty good seizure department. So I took him down there. I spent like 3 days with him, and it was so strange. And you wonder why things happen the way they do. And so they went over all the records with him. I had to sit there with a little button and watch him. And every time he had a seizure, they had a camera on him. I would click the button and it would mark a seizure. These were the little like twitching seizures.
Huh?
And so I said, how long do I have to do this? And the guy says, well, you got to do it for like 24 hours. I'm like, oh God. And after an hour, he had about 10 seizures in the first hour. So they came in and said, we've got enough. And I talked to the doctor before we went back to Michigan. He said, it looks like the neurologists and everybody up here are doing everything that we would do. He says, the only medication we haven't tried is an old liquid medication for seizures, one of the first anti-seizure meds. And so he prescribed that, and we got back up here. We got it for him. Didn't do a darn thing except it made him drool like a faucet. He would just drool coming out of his mouth. So the neurologist up here said, well, that's not a problem. We'll get him a drying agent that dries his mouth up. And she said, start him off on half a dose for a week and then the full dose after a week. And so my wife gave him the half a dose, and 3 days later, his seizures had cut in half.
Wow.
So she gave him the full dose, and he stopped seizing. And she called the neurologist, and she says, that has nothing to do with the seizures, but it obviously does. And that was the breakthrough that we were looking for. And since then, he's had seizures, but for the most part now, he's like 90, I want to jinx myself. He's probably like 97% seizure free.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and it was just a fluke thing that they tried this thing, and it was actually the drooling med, the drying med that actually we believe, and the neurologist is of the opinion too. For whatever reason, it stopped the seizures. So he gets that medication along with his seizure medications now.
Wow.
So that was the biggest hurdle. That was so frustrating because there's nothing you can do when your son has a seizure, and you're watching it and you don't know when it's going to happen. He had startle seizures, which was interesting because sometimes if something dropped and made a sharp noise, it could set him into a seizure. And we learned that we were able to talk, if we got it quick enough, we were able to talk him out of the seizures. We'd get them to focus back on us and talk to him, and you could see him, once he started focusing back on us, the seizure would go away before it started. And sometimes you wouldn't get it in time, or sometimes it wouldn't. He'd go into a full-blown seizure. But actually, most of the time, we were able to get him to focus on us and get out of the seizure. And it's pretty incredible. I've never heard of that happening before.
Wow. The miracles of medicine, man.
Yeah, it's just it's. I think it's got something to do with the man upstairs. I really do.
Absolutely, I agree. All right, number 3. How did you manage to provide extra care for your son and also provide just the regular care for your other children? How did you manage? Not feel different.
We were fortunate. Like I said, my wife was a stay-at-home mom, and I was pretty active I was active with a lot of the other kids. We tried to always tried to keep him whatever the other kids were doing. If they were going to my son was playing hockey or my daughter was playing softball, he always went with us. He had at that point he had a stroller, not a wheelchair, but we always made sure that he went with us, and stuff if it was possible. And so yeah, you just do it, I guess is what I'm going to say is you just do it. You don't ask about it, you don't question it. You just it's accepted, And we were very fortunate. So
that's good. All right, number 4. Finish this sentence for me. I believe the biggest misconception about cerebral palsy is.
Boy, that's a tough question. Because the spectrum of cerebral palsy is so wide. Like I said, it can be anything from, say, a little a pointing of the toes in, and when someone's walking, and no cognitive impairment whatsoever, or it can be like my son, who's considered severely impaired. So I think it's not really a misconception. I just think people don't understand it, So as you know, we worked at the mall together and stuff, and I always make a point, if I can, when somebody comes by with a child or an adult that's obviously either got cerebral palsy or some kind of other condition that they're severely impaired, I always ask them if I can talk to them, and I do. So it's just I think sometimes people are afraid to talk to them, or scared, or don't want to, or just don't know what to say in that, and that's kind of hard sometimes, So, or sometimes people are rude. You're trying to get a wheelchair or a stroller through a store, and people don't even move to let you go by. So it's just they're relatively minor. The things are relatively minor.
All right, my last question. What is your favorite part about being your son's dad?
Favorite part is just being with him. He loves to be with me. Taking him in the car or the motorcycle or the hooking up the trailer to my tractor and driving him around the yard. That's my favorite part. So he's just he's one happy little guy. I wish all my kids were as happy as him, to be quite honest with you. He's just being with them. He has to be hand fed and stuff like that. He has very limited arm movement and stuff. He can do some things. He can operate an iPad or iPad or whatever and stuff better than I can. He's good at some things, but other things you have to do it for him. And but just spending spending time with him. I have him every other weekend. And now I dedicate my weekends. I don't plan anything else. I just plan on being with him, So that's my favorite part about it, is just spending time with him. He is an inspiration. He really is.
He sounds like it. He sounds very positive, very happy.
Very positive, very happy. Very rarely ever, got an attitude or angry or anything. So it just you just like spending time with him. He's changed not only my life, but he's changed a lot of lives. He really has. People that know him, the caregivers talk. The one caregiver that her back is there, talks to me. She says, "I miss him so much. I just want to come see him." So
that's beautiful.
3.
What lesson has your dad taught you that you have passed along to your children?
That's a good question, Sarah. One of the things my father told me, again, like I said, my mom handled the purse strings. One of the things he always told me was, no matter who you are, be sure that you can pay all the bills yourself.
Okay.
He said, you might split bills and all that stuff when you're married or have a girlfriend, but be sure that you can do it all on your own because that other person may not always be there.
Wow. Good
And I
advice.
imparted that to both of my kids. I said, hey, you got your boyfriends and you got your girlfriends and this, that, and the other. You guys moving in together and so forth. That's fine. Split the bills, split the rent. But know that if you break up, you don't have to lower your standard. Get
Right.
used to a certain standard of living, but off of your own money. That way, that doesn't change.
Good.
So that you don't fall into a trap of, oh my gosh, now I can't live here anymore, or no, I can't afford this car anymore.
Right.
Be able to do all that on your own. If you can't do it on your own money, don't do it. Don't do it because you really can't afford it if something happens. So that was the biggest lesson I think my dad taught me.
Okay. All right. Question number 2. Do you think that dads should communicate with their children, be honest, playful, and dependable, like be there in good times and bad times for them? Should you be able to talk and allow them to bring up subjects that may be, I guess, kind of touchy? Like, for instance, when you and your wife got divorced, was that a topic that they could ask you questions about and you didn't say go ask your mother, or you sat there and you guys talked about it together?
We sat him down and told him that we were getting divorced. Um, of course, my daughter cried. My son kind of looked like, why? One of those kind of things, and that's another story in itself. But no, you have to be able to communicate that with the kids. And in this case, we let them know it's got nothing to do with you guys. This is
Good.
between your mom and I. You guys are fine. Um, we're friends. I mean, their mom and I were friends still. Matter of fact, when we got divorced, she only moved like about a little more than a quarter of a mile away, maybe half a mile. So the kids were old enough then that they could walk back and forth to each house.
Okay.
One of those kind of things. And we went right down the middle with time sharing for the kids. She'd have them one week, I'd have them another week. We didn't want to do the weekend thing, and we wanted a little bit of stability, so we went for the whole week at a time. And I think that worked out well. But yes, you have to be able to talk to your kids about sensitive matters. You still have to be able to joke around with your kids. Just this past Saturday, I was out playing pickleball, and I called my daughter because her boyfriend lives about 3 blocks from where we were playing pickleball. I called her in the morning and I go like, "Hey, I'm gonna be over at the pickleball court. If you and KJ want to come over and watch." She goes, "Dad, I don't know. We're not interested in pickleball." I said, "Well, come on over anyway if you feel like it." She goes, "Well, we'll see." So about 11 o'clock, they walk over, and the other people were there, and they says, "Well, you guys want to play? You want to try it?" No, no. Oh, come on, try it. They tried it. They played. We even played a game with them. Gave some of the rules to them. Everybody else left. The only 3 people left were those two and I. I decided, okay, listen, you can keep the paddles, and here's a ball. You guys can knock it around as much as you want. And KJ Turner says, "Well, I think I'm gonna go get me a paddle."
Wow.
But again, that's having fun with them.
Right.
And exposing them to new things.
Yes.
Everybody thinks pickleball is an old person sport. No, it's not.
It's not.
No, it's
No.
not. But again, you got to have fun with it. My son and I, we bowl together.
Okay.
He bowls. I subbed on one of his teams. He subbed on one of my teams. And last year we bowled on the same team together.
Okay.
So yeah, so we're out there. We're having fun. We're communicating, and we're enjoying each other's company. So yeah, it's important to talk to them.
It's good. Okay. What do you think people misunderstand about biracial families? What do you think is the most thing that they misunderstood about families like yours?
What do they misunderstand most? I think the most thing they misunderstand is that there are issues that they have to deal with, and the issues only develop because of that other person. They're just normal people, you
Right.
know. And if it wasn't for someone else creating an issue, there would be no issue. They're kids. You see kids 1 year old, 2 years old, 3, 4 years old. They don't care what the other kid looks like. They're
No.
playing. They're having fun. That only develops later on when a parent or a grandparent starts to put a little more influence on them.
Mhm.
They don't care. So the issue develops from someone else,
Right.
not from the biracial family, not from the biracial kids. It's an outside influence that causes the issues.
Yeah. All right. I think this is number 4. Fill in this blank. My children would describe me as fill in the blank.
Let's see. How would my daughter describe me? My daughter would probably describe me as a disciplinarian, a teacher, and cool.
Cool.
And cool.
A cool disciplinarian. That's what you. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, even like her friends, I've always said, man, you got the coolest dad, I don't do anything special. I laugh with her friends and joke with her friends, yeah, whatever. My son, I think he would describe me as strong, opinionated, and also a teacher, because I try to instill in them, especially financial things, how to handle their money, how to handle their life, stuff like that. I try to get drill into them so that they are better than I when that time comes for them to retire. Like my son, I started him saving with a Roth IRA from the time he was 14,
Wow.
and he still puts money into it. He's been working ever since he was 16. Even going to high school, he ran track, everything else, but he was still working. He'd work just weekends, and then as time went on, he worked full time. And it was at a bowling alley, but they loved him there. They started as a working, doing the parties on the weekends for kids and stuff like that. Then they made him a pin jumper. Then they made him a mechanic. Then they asked him if he wanted to stick around in the summertime. So he stuck around in the summertime there and was doing machine repairs on the bowling pins. Then come the season, he said, like, you want to go to the kitchen? So then he started cooking in the kitchen at the bowling alley. So yeah, now he's got a degree in computer science.
Okay.
So what's he doing? Selling patio furniture. But what? Hey,
Go figure, right?
That's
Go
okay.
figure.
That's neither here nor there. That's our issue. So, and my
Choices.
daughter,
Yes,
again, she's always been into makeup, always been into skincare and stuff like that. She'd be here in high school, and her girlfriends would come over, and she'd be doing all their makeup to go to prom, to go to this party, go to that party. And I say to her, "Are you charging them anything for this? $5 even?" She goes like, "Nah, Dad, they're my friends." I said, "You should at least charge them a couple bucks." So she started doing that, and so she made her money that way. Now she does aesthetics for a company in Canton, and that's what she does for her living. But that was something she had always been into. So I always wanted to pursue their dreams, do what you want to do. But as for Delson, patio furniture, come on.
Choices, Dad. You told them to have choices, so they did.
Yeah.
All right. So my final question: what's the best advice you have ever received, and what's the best advice you've ever given to? Well, I guess what's the best advice you would give to a new dad or another dad? But what's the best advice you received about being a dad?
The best advice I would give to a new father is to be there for your kids. I mean, and when I say be there, I don't mean just be at home. I mean, be there, participate in their activities. One of the things I try to do with my kids is make them very well rounded. So I had them participate in every sport they could when they were younger. Golf lessons, swimming, soccer, t-ball, everything. Well-rounded people. I love sports, so that's probably why I had them do all that. Anyway, but But I would say just be there for the kids. And when they're doing their thing, you got to be there. You know, when Delson was playing T-ball, I was one of the assistant coaches. You know, when Delaney was taking golf lessons, I showed up there all the time. She started doing. She didn't. The school they went to, you either had to do music or sing in the school in the 5th grade. You had no choice, one or the other. Play an instrument or sing. Well, Delaney chose an instrument. She chose a saxophone. One of my best friends had 3 saxophones. He gave her one. So she played saxophone all through her elementary school. Got to high school, did the marching band thing, played saxophone in the marching band for 2 years. Then decided, well, Dad, I don't think I want to do the marching band anymore. So she moved over to color guard. That's fine with me. But in her sophomore year, as she's playing saxophone, because we had to get some private lessons, you know, try to make the best that you can for them. And her instructor says, hey, listen, there's a guy down in Lincoln Park, owns a music store, has a little band. He says, all kids, you want to come down and play? And she goes, well, I don't know. I said, I think it'd be fun. So he drove her down to Lincoln Park this one day. And we get there a little bit early because I was early. And he goes in and he says, just go in this back room and just warm up a little bit. And she's back there playing and you can tell she's nervous, you know. And then the guy comes in and he's talking to her. And she comes out and says, Dad, I want to go home. I go, now, I drove 20 plus miles down here. You're going to stay here and finish this out. If you don't want to come back after that, that's fine. But you're staying here at least today. I left and went to a microbrew down the street, right? So about an hour and a half later, I came back and they're in there playing and she's laughing and she's joking. And I go, well, you coming back next week? She goes back, yeah, Dad, that was fun. So they have this little band. The youngest kid was 9, and I think the oldest girl was like 15. And he would set gigs up for them. And they would go play at fairs, local fairs. They played at a bar one night. And I go up, you know, I drop her off, I go park, she goes in, I get to the door, and the guy says, $5 cover charge. I said, no, my daughter's in the band. He goes, well, how do you think they're gonna get paid? You know, so again, you be there for them. Just participate with them, laugh with them, joke with them, discipline them when they need it, you know, but you have to be there for them. Both parents, not just one. Both of them need to be there.
Okay. All right. So what's the best advice you were given to be the dad that you are?
Well, the best advice, I guess it have to be the 2 things I mentioned before. One from my sergeant that told me to get into this investment thing. And the second thing from my dad when he said, be sure you can live on your own money. And again, I've imparted both of those things to my kids. My daughter, she hasn't bit the investment portion of it yet, you know, but my son has, which is good. But she kept saying, I know, Dad, I know I'm going to get, one of her uncles is actually a financial planner. She goes, I know that, I know, I'll call him. Okay, well, when you do, you know, but again, like where she works now, she gets a bonus every month. And I go, what are you going to do with your bonus? She goes, I don't know. I says, you know, that's probably a good thing that you could start the investment with, is the bonus you get every month, because it's extra money that you don't need and you don't count on, because it changes every month. Right. You don't even count on it. You may not get it one month. I think you should just invest that. We'll see what happens. All you can do is tell them, give them the lesson, and hope they.
Yes.
2.
One of the things that most men misunderstand about being a girl dad is, and you fill in that blank. What do you think one of the things that men misunderstand about being a girl dad?
I'll say this. In my opinion, a lot of men don't seem to understand that her whole life, her personality, how she thinks of herself, how she looks at herself, it's going to be a reflection of the relationship you have with her. So if you don't make her or project high self-esteem, she's not going to have it.
Right.
And she's going to pick men that probably are not in her best interest, or men that's going to pick up she didn't have a good relationship with her father. So I'm going to be able to run game on her because her dad didn't do what he needed to do prior to him entering the picture.
Right.
So my thing was always told Raven, you're the prize. And if a guy tells you otherwise, then you get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a dad needs to understand that she should be your first love. Well, you should be her first love.
Right.
So you have to project self-esteem in her
Mm-hmm.
because everything she does in life is predicated on the relationship she has with her dad.
True. I think number 2, how did raising her without her mom change you as a man and as a dad? And you've already stated, but you could reiterate.
I mean, I'm human. I made some mistakes along the way. I had some bumps in the road. I used to be really ashamed, but I made some decisions that probably I never would have made out of fear because I was scared to raise her by myself. But I quickly corrected those mistakes because I saw that not only was the mistake I made not good for me, it wasn't benefiting her. And if it wasn't benefiting her, it couldn't be right for me. So, I'm human. I made mistakes, but I had to correct those mistakes. I owed her that. I owed her mom that. I'm a man of my word. I made a promise and I fully intended on keeping it. And I think that's probably why those weeks and the day of her graduation, I was so emotional. Because that was a huge promise to make and a huge accomplishment on her behalf and mine that I kept my promise.
Good. Yes, you did. All right. Third one. What lessons have you learned about being a dad to your daughter that different from the ones you learned watching your granddad and your uncle raise you and your brothers?
There's no parenting book that you can go get and read to learn how to be a parent. I think sometimes people make the mistake of trying to emulate what their parents did or their grandparents did. We're talking about different time periods.
Right.
The things we had to deal with compared to what kids nowadays have to deal with, there was no such thing as a mass shooting. There was no opioid epidemic. When I was growing up, you didn't turn the TV on to see sex and murder and drugs all over the TV. It's a different time frame. And you have to change with the times.
Right.
And if you're not prepared to change with the times, then you're going to be making mistakes off assumptions from the past. So I just tried to take what my grandfather and my uncle instilled in me and then merge it with the time I was living in.
All right. Number 4. What is it about being a dad that makes you the most grateful?
This is the greatest reward I've ever had. I mean, I said earlier that, that night she had that miscarriage. I mean, I can't even describe how horrific that was. I mean, I'm surprised Rachel didn't bleed out. That's how much blood it was. Matter of fact, I used to like sleeping on satin sheets back then. The satin sheets were cream. They were red when I woke up. Completely red. It was so much blood. The carpet, we had beige carpet. The carpet was red.
Wow.
But I always told myself that that's why I had to go through that. Because it probably was a boy. And he knew how bad I wanted a girl. So he said, I won't put you through this so I can give you a greater gift. So
Right.
that's just how I look at that.
Okay. All right. My final question, number 5. What's the best advice that you have given or received about being a dad?
I remember my mom told me years ago that when you have kids, your kids will try to emulate you. I never forgot that. So I never want to make mistakes or have Raven see me in a bad light.
1.
What advice would you give a young man who's told he has a child he didn't know about?
I would tell him to go through the proper protocols of finding out who the child is, who like backstep. What I would tell him is, like you said, if he found out,
Yeah, if he found like you did, you somebody called you and said, "Hey, you got a kid," and
try to find out who was that last person that he talked to. I mean, that he was with, and work out something with that child's mother before anything, like before anything. And if you have to, go down to the course yourself and set up something yourself.
Okay, so
Because it's worse. I found out it's worse if they have to come for you and find you and do all this and that.
so DNA. Where do you think? I mean, and suppose now, in your case, your baby was young. Suppose the kid is like 12. You still suggest that they try to go do DNA or try to figure out?
Do the DNA. Do the DNA and build some type of relationship he can with the mother. Especially if she's that type of person that she's willing to work with you and to avoid putting you on top, or if she's not that type of person, definitely get the DNA and be in that child's life. Because, it really doesn't matter what age you come in their life, as long as you come into their life and be there for them.
Okay. All right.
Is what I believe.
All right. Number 2, what advice would you give a new father who has to co-parent with someone he never had a relationship with?
Be there for the child and set some boundaries and standards with the mother. Set some boundaries and standards with the mother and make sure everything is 50-50. Everything had to be 50-50.
What do you mean by 50-50?
Like whatever, like it can't just be everything like for my situation where she was just trying to put everything off on me and maybe I have to go 100% away. Like you have to have some foot in there where you are able to make decisions and do this and that. So whatever the decisions you make is agreeable to, and it's every situation is compromisable, where it's not just falling on one person.
Okay. So when your son, number 3, when your son becomes of age to make babies, what advice will you offer him about sex and the potential to make a child before he's mentally, emotionally, and financially ready?
It's crazy. I just had this talk with him.
What? He's 9, right?
Yeah, because I forgot what he asked me about something about his brother, because he asked me, was I going to have another one?
Okay.
And I told him no. And then I told him, I said, hey, son, number one thing you want to look at is the outlook of your life. I said, make sure you get everything that you want to do out the way. Like, enjoy your life, get everything you want to do out the way. You want to go to school, get all your schooling, whatever, set yourself up with a good job that's going to last long through your life and through your kids and grandkids' life. Do everything you want to do. Be financially stable. And then if you come to the point, make it with the woman that you know you are willing to be with the rest of your life. And that's exactly how I told him.
Okay.
I told him, don't have multiple kids at all. I mean, multiple mothers.
Okay. All right. All right. So number 4, what do you think is an important thing for your son to know about you as a man and as his dad?
Oh, no matter what, I'm gonna always be there. No matter what, no matter what, through any situation, he can call on me. I got his back no matter what. I don't care if it's whatever situation he feel like he can't talk to his mom or anybody else about, he can always come talk to me about anything. And I tell him this to this day, like, I don't care what happened or what you do or what you go through, call me and talk to me. We're gonna figure it out together. Just know you're never gonna be alone in it.
Beautiful.
Never.
All right. Number 5, finish this statement. No matter what age you meet your child, I believe a father should blank.
Say it one more time.
No matter what age you meet your child, a father should blank. So if you meet him at 18, if you meet him at 2, you meet him at 3, what should a father do in your opinion?
Grow with him.
Okay.
Grow with him. He should grow with him. And that's just like mentally, emotionally, physically, grow with him. No matter what, grow with him. Like, I don't believe that a child shouldn't have his parents, especially if they're around and close by. I don't care like what relationship they have with the child's mother or whoever it is. Be with the child, because how that child grows up and become the person he is to society can reflect on his upbringing, from whether if it's just his mom or if it's from his dad or both parents. Like, be with the child and grow with him, teach him. Because you could tell a single parent household child from a double household, you know. And I believe that, and like, if a man has a chance and choice to be with a child, be with him, grow with him, teach him, learn him. Because we come into a day and age where it's about to be their world, and we can't do nothing but prepare them and help them survive and become the best people they can be, to not only carry our legacy on, but, you know, stepping stones and teaching their kids and this and that.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this first half of the season. We'll be back next week with the all new dad and a new story. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have a topic that you believe can help other dads, please send me an email at realdadsspeak@gmail.com. That's realdadsspeak@gmail.com. And thanks for watching. And by the way, if you have a favorite Final 5 segment, list it below in the comments. Thank you.